We've had 8 April elections and 8 May elections. And since it's time to break that tie, let's break it in favor of an April election.
The election campaign is now officially underway in Prince Edward Island. Liberal leader Wade McLaughlin set the vote last night for April 23rd, and according to the polls, this election could produce Canada's first Green Party government. The Greens could also make history in a BC by-election in May, and the CBC's polls analyst Eric Grenier is here to explain why. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. Back to by-elections.
Yes.
Here we go. So what's going to happen in this by-election? What are the polls telling you? And specifically, what kind of shot do the Greens have?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting about these two election campaigns that are ongoing right now. So let's take a look at Nanaimo-Ladysmith. So the by-election was set just this past weekend. If we look back to 2015, this was a close race. This is a Vancouver Island riding. Sheila Malcolmson was the MP there. She stepped down to run provincially. You can see that it was really a four-way race. You had the NDP at 33%, the Liberals and the Conservatives were just at about 23%, and the Greens at 20%. So what is really interesting about this one is that it is a riding where you could have any of those four parties really win it, but because we have been talking a bit about the Greens, that they have had some success in a number of provincial elections, we're seeing them do well in the polls. They're also a party to watch in this riding. And as you had mentioned with the P.E.I. election that will be taking place about 2 weeks before, there is a good potential for the Greens to have a little bit of momentum going into that by-election, which is why they are perhaps a party to watch in that vote.
And what about P.E.I.?
Well, P.E.I., what's really interesting about that one is it could have a change of government that we've never seen in P.E.I., that there's only ever been Liberals and PCs there. So the vote there is on April 23rd, and the last poll that we've seen, which was done in February, had the Greens ahead of both the PCs and the Liberals by a significant margin, about 38% to about 29% for the PCs. And we've seen actually in 5 of the last 7 polls, the Greens were ahead in P.E.I. So it's not just one rogue poll or anything like that. The party is doing quite well in the island. So why this could have an impact on a federal by-election at the other end of the country is that the vote in P.E.I. is on April 23rd. The vote in Nanaimo-Ladysmith is on May 6th. And if the Greens have a boost from a P.E.I. victory, or at least just a breakthrough, that could spill over and give people a bit of gives people some reason to vote for the Greens. Because if you think about what happened in 2015, the New Democrats won the Alberta election, and that was an upset, and it was a good news story for the NDP. But the federal NDP at that point was trailing in 3rd place. They were not doing very well, and it was after that victory that the NDP moved into 1st place and then started the 2015 federal election with the lead in the polls. So
which then disintegrated.
Which did go away, that's correct. But having a provincial victory can have an impact on a federal party, even if it's not related. The NDP suddenly looked a lot better in Quebec after the Alberta victory in 2015. So while it seems like the two might be unrelated, it can have an impact.
What's behind their popularity in P.E.I.?
Well, I think what we've seen in a number of the Atlantic provinces, New Brunswick, and now P.E.I., is that it is a duopoly in the sense that it's always the Liberals or the Conservatives who have governed these provinces. And so the Green Party, which is casting itself as a party that does things a little bit differently, is appealing there. It's not necessarily an environmentalist message like it might be in British Columbia, in a place like on Vancouver Island, where the Greens also do quite well. So it is something to watch, that this is an election year where the Greens do have an opportunity to have some success at the provincial level and the federal level. We've seen the New Democrats in some polls have actually been behind the Greens in Atlantic Canada, and in some polls even in Quebec. So this is an opportunity for the party. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually cash in. Because we've seen in a lot of elections before where the Greens are polling somewhere around 8–10%, going into an election campaign at the federal level and then ending up way below that and not winning anything but Elizabeth May's seat. So an opportunity for them this year, and there'll be a couple key tests for them coming up the next few weeks.
April 23rd, election day in P.E.I., right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Eric. The CBC's poll analyst, Eric Grenier.